Ladies, gentlemen, and destined ones of all ages, as we move forward, people are slowly getting further and further into Black Myth Wukong. And as they do so, there are a number of questions that I get, a lot of things that I often see people surprised about in comments, or just completely unaware of. And well, yesterday I went over pretty much all of the important secrets in Chapter 2, and the first little bit of Chapter 3 as well. I thought today might be better to go over these two chapters in a different lens, specifically talking about the mistakes that either I made, or I saw or heard others making within this specific stretch of the game. And this will include things from general gameplay tips and things that you can change, to even just specific strong items that can upgrade your setup that are easily missable if you don't know about them, or things that can counter specific bosses along the way. Starting off then, stop ignoring the little will pickups around the map. The smaller ones are the little green wisps that you can find and interact with. The larger blue ones specifically drop from spirit enhanced enemies, and whenever you absorb a blue one, you get a spirit item to use in combat. The somewhat hidden part of these though is that the little green ones of these will refill a portion of your healing gourd so that you get some healing ability back. The blue ones will refill your entire healing gourd up to full, so it's basically just a full refresh in the middle of whatever section of the map that you're fighting through. On the note of spirits, as well as the actual items in your equipment, as well as the vessels too, these are equipment slots with a ton of text about their active effects, but lots of people don't seem to realize that they all have passive effects too. These are quite simply statistical changes that are permanently active with the item equipped. For example, I recommend the Withering White Spirit in Chapter 1 because it gave you plus 20 defense. In Chapter 2, the one that I generally consider the best is the Gore-Eyed Taoist. This comes from the boss of the same name on the path beside the Windseal Gate Shrine. Follow this bridge up and up the hill to find the enemy and get the spirit. And even aside from the actual secondary effect of it, the passive effect, the active of this is really good too. Rather than being an attack in itself, it boosts your damage as yourself, the Monkey King. As well, behind him is the crafting material to upgrade your gourd to use as per rest, which is another mistake to avoid. Don't miss these plants, don't forget to upgrade when you find them. Past that, all shrines have stores. Sometimes finding new shrines will expand or change the store's inventory, so it is pretty frequently worth checking what the store has, because it might have changed. The items cost will, and it also costs will to craft armor or weapons as well. Will is essentially the general currency for the game, but you may have noticed that you also pick up loads of gold piece items from enemies as random drops, and you can actually sell these in the store as well, which exchanges them for more will for you to spend on all the other things. Basically, the mistake here would be forgetting to sell these, or just not knowing that you can in the first place, so don't do that. Another mistake to avoid is getting trapped in one build. In most games with skill trees, you either cannot reset the skill tree, or if you can, it is a limited thing, or it has a cost, or some sort of later game unlock, but in Black Myth Wukong, you can reset your skill tree at any shrine at any time, allowing you to freely build however you want at any given moment in the game. This can be as simple as letting you just mess around with new spells as you get them and upgrading them to see what they can do, or trying to match new armor sets that you craft and unlock to actually try and make a proper setup. Or it can be as complex as literally changing your full skill tree to match every single boss in the game, as there's nothing to actually stop you from doing that, so you can use this as a sort of counter whatever each boss's weaknesses are in a more interesting and methodical way. Other ways that you can do this are, for example, if you're really interested in thrust stance. You can't get the first upgrade until you hit level 20, but once you do, you can refund all of your other stance skill points and move them into thrust to try it out instantly. And on that note, our next mistake would be not knowing about the parries in the game. There are actually a number of different parries conceptually. Multiple of the magic spells have upgrades that make them count as parries, such as Immobilizes, Evanescence, or even just Rock Stance in general, and this also boosts how they work if you time them correctly. But the ones that I specifically want to explain right now are on the staff stance section of the skill tree, as they are a bit strangely worded and maybe unexpected for people who don't quite get it. The first is Resolute Strike for Smash Stance, the first upgrade on the right side. If you have a focus point available and you have stamina and you have this upgrade, you can press heavy attack after finishing a light attack animation. If you time this as an enemy is about to hit you with an attack, it will count as a parry that negates all incoming damage and deals your attack. This combos further along this path of the skill tree into more power growth following successful parries, but that is essentially just a moveset specific parry for Smash Stance. Then we have Thrust Stance, and in Thrust Stance the parry is twofold, but the important part is Tactical Retreat. After doing a light attack, you can press heavy attack to jump backwards. This combos into other attacks and doesn't have a cost, but if you time it just as an enemy is about to hit you, this will count as seeing through them, which is the term for a parry with your staff. This is how you activate further upgrades in this side of the tree, such as free heavy attacks after doing so, or infinite stamina after triggering this too, which is really good if you can get the timing right consistently. Past that, then the next mistake to avoid is completely missing the Zoo Dog NPC in Chapter 2. You can find him early on by the village entrance shrine in the start of Chapter 2, just slide down into the pit and go right from here, and this first interaction with him ends by unlocking medicine crafting. Then you can find him later on in the chapter, specifically through the Tiger Mouth Blood blood path entrance that is unlocked in the Crouching Tiger Temple after you have finished both the Vanguard bosses. Down through this trail then will bring you to the Cellar Shrine. Beside this shrine is a cave with the Zoo Dog NPC, who now will let you craft Celestial Pills. These are items that will permanently increase certain stats, health, stamina, mana, defense, and these don't have infinite scaling, but they can have a ton of investment put into them. Missing this is just missing a ton of power, to put it quite simply. As well, this NPC gives you the ability to refund every one of these pills that you make, so while the material to craft this item is somewhat rare, you shouldn't feel any caution about crafting them, as you can change your mind whenever you want to and reset this just like the skill tree. My personal recommendation early on at least is to get a ton of ranks of defense from this. Defense is only 1 mind core per upgrade as opposed to something like health, which is 3, and it's 5 defense that you gain per pill. If you can get like 10 of these, that's an extra 50 defense, which may not be a lot in the end section of the game, but in like chapter 2, chapter 3 is quite a fairly large amount of defense to gain. From there, it's just specific items or interactions that you should make sure that you do or get, for things that would quite simply be a mistake to not find. The first one is with the Man in Stone NPC. From the Squall Hideout Shrine in the Fright Cliffs, forward and ahead through the lower trench area, you will find this NPC stuck in the ground. He will ask you for help, and if you go back to the shrine and in the cave to the left of the shrine, follow it all the way to its endpoint, you'll find this stone formation with glowing rocks on it. Hit the glowing bits to do damage and reveal that this is a boss. Defeat the boss and then head back to the Man in Stone who is in the trench, defeat him in combat after interacting with him, and this will give you the Azure Dust Transformation magic spell, turning you into a rock guy for the duration for an exceptionally defensive transformation spell with a ton of damage output, and the only real limit is the close range nature and the fact that you can't dodge while using it, which makes it really good for AoE but not as good for single target. Then there is the cloud-patterend stone staff, and this comes from defeating Shigan Dang, the secret bonus boss of the Fright Cliffs area. You summon him by collecting the Buddha eyeballs scattered around the area and putting them within the Buddha head that is in the Rock Clash Arena, the place where you fight the Stone Vanguard boss. As for where these Buddha eyes are, that is easier to just point you towards my Chapter 2 Secrets video that goes over all the eye locations in the early section of that. This staff then has 60 attack, but also gives you 30 defense as a lovely bonus, and the weapon effect itself is bonus damage to charged heavy attacks in Smash Stance, which has a lot of synergy potential with multiple different armor sets. The next one then is the Tiger Tally Curio, and this item increases attack after successive light attack hits. To put simply, you will activate this a ton just passively no matter what your build is, because we all do light attacks, it's just the way that the flow of combat works within the game. As for actually getting this is a drop from a boss in the proper secret area of Chapter 2. You unlock this through the storyline for the Boar Man NPC that you can find from the Rockcliffe Flats Shrine. From here, head directly ahead and through the breakable fence behind the Spearbone enemy to find the boar resting and drunk. You need the Sobering Stone item to continue. You can find a free one elsewhere in Chapter 2, but for concise explanation, you can also just buy one of these items from the Man in Stone NPC from earlier on for a small chunk of will. Give the boar the Sobering Stone and he will move to the outside of the Crouching Tiger Temple, just to the right of the boss arena itself. Talk to him over here and then he will move back to his original location, and then from there you need to have the Arhat Gold Piece. This is a reward for defeating the first Prince of the Flowing Sands optional boss. This is in the cave that leads to the Crouching Tiger Temple, so you may have already done it, but depending on you dealt with the prior duo boss, you may not have, because it will either spawn automatically if you left the king alive when you walk in, or you'll need to use the interact prompt actually beside the cliff to activate it if you killed the king. Bring this item that you get from this prince to the boar in his original spot, and he will then actually want to fight you as a boss himself. Win and defeat him, and he will take you to the secret area for Chapter 2 with the curio that I mentioned earlier as a reward for one of the bosses. But this also unlocks multiple armor pieces, including a unique helmet and 3 pieces of craftable armor after you finish it, as well as a full-on vessel that counters the quite difficult boss of Chapter 2, the one all the way in the tornado. So there's actually quite a ton that you can miss from this, and it's very worth doing, especially if you are having problems with the final boss of the chapter. Then past that, we're going to be moving into Chapter 3 for just a couple of specific but important pickups in the Bitter Lake area on Turtle Island specifically. After you defeat the boss that you have to fight when you spawn in here, there is a statue down and right from the shrine of a Cyan Loong. You activate this by getting nearby it if you have the Long Scales item. You get this from right beside the first prince boss that we just talked about in Chapter 2, either by luring the prince to attack the false wall in the arena, or by attacking this wall yourself with something like the Withering White Headbutt Slam from the spirit item. This will open a hole and inside you will find the scales. Anyways, using this and walking up to the Cyan Loong statue summons the Cyan Loong boss from this, cracking out of it and turning his fishing rod into a sword. Defeating this boss gives you the first required crafting material for the first mythical staff that you could make, but you actually can't fully craft this right now, I'll be honest with you, and you can't craft it until Chapter 4. Still, it would be a mistake to miss out on grabbing this now because it's an important component of one of the strongest things that you can get pretty soon. Then past that a little bit later in the chapter, one more spot that unlocks a couple of very major things that is quite optional and quite missable. From the north shore of Bitter Lake Temple Shrine, turn immediately left to find the optional boss, Cyan Loong, out just a little bit in the water. Defeat him and this actually starts a quest. To complete this quest, go visit Zoodog back in the cellar where we crafted our celestial pills, talk to him and literally use the talk option. If you haven't done that before, he'll give you a mind core, but then you can talk to him again and he will give you the medicine for Cyan Loong. Bring it back to Cyan Loong, who is now at the hut that was about 20 feet to the right of where you fought him before, and he will bring you in and give you access to an entirely special, missable, and important location, the Zodiac Village, of which he is a member. Here you unlock a couple of new full-on mechanics, including Cyan Loong for actually planting your seeds and growing plants within this area, as well as the Blacksmith NPC, who is incredibly important. This guy allows you to upgrade the armor that you already have. Let's say that you really like the sprint attack set bonus, for example. You like the idea of being able to do a sprint attack build, but you hate that the sprint set was the first one that you could unlock in the game and only has 40 defense total. Well, bring it to this guy and put some materials into it and suddenly it will be up to par with anything else you've got, if not better. This opens up the possibilities for playing a massive amount of different builds as a result all in itself, and changes the way that the armor scales later into the game. But this also comes with the bonus that all of your other crafting-based NPCs, such as the Zoo Dog or the monkey that upgrades your gourd, will move to this shrine location after this in the Zodiac Village. So they will all be located now in what is just a nice little hub area that you can visit. As well, finally interact with the blacksmith here, and you can actually choose the challenge option instead of just crafting or upgrading armor. This will actually create a new optional boss encounter. Well, just fight him. He is absolutely no joke though. Proper warning here, he's a seriously solid opponent, but if he beats you, you can retry as many times as you want, or you can come back later if you're not feeling up to it. But if you defeat him, you will unlock the Ebon Flow transformation magic skill, which transforms you into him and lets you wield his absolutely massive greatsword as a weapon. So, it's a pretty cool and strong thing to pick up here too. And that just about does it for today then, everyone. Just a bunch of mistakes to avoid making in Chapter 2 and 3 of Black Myth Wukong, for the sake of just making your journey to the west that little bit more enjoyable. Like if you liked the video, subscribe to the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet. Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.